What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we have got to talk about the new Nissan Z car. I have had so many comments of people asking me about that. If you're new to the channel, I have owned two Nissan 370Zs and I currently own the GTR alongside the A90 Toyota Supra. So this is the Z Proto, the Proto Z, the 400Z, whatever you want to call it. Nissan has unveiled their concept for the 370Z replacement. I like a lot of what it has to offer, some things I don't like, but today we're going to talk about will I be trading in and selling my Toyota Supra for this new Z, because that car has a lot to offer. I love fun sports cars and the new Z could be an awesome replacement to the Supra. So to first talk about the one thing that I am not a fan of, which is the looks of this new Z. So this is a concept, it's not 100% the final production car, but I do not think they got the looks down at all. When the FT1 concept came out, which was the original version of the Supra, it looked insane, it blew everybody's minds. It looked like a Ferrari of some sorts, but it was going to be a Toyota. It was insane looking. And then the production model, this right here, it's a lot toned down compared to that concept, but when you look at it carefully and actually really take a good look, this car has a lot of amazing style compared to the concept, and it has a lot of the same design elements, and this is a really good looking car. Some of you think this is ugly, I get it. This is all subjective being look, so of course some of you may love it. This thing looks amazing. If we look at the Supra real quick, because I think this is a great looking car, the front end has so much sculpture to it. I love how we have these pieces right here. It looks like an F1 car. The pointy nose on it, the LEDs on the headlights look super cool. As we come to the side, one thing that's really hard to show on camera, this door has a rounded area like this, and it curves like this. So there's a lot of sculpture and curvatures to it. And then we have these huge fender arches, and then a really cool integrated ducktail spoiler. So there is a lot of sculpture to the Supra. I think they did an insane job just adding some really good style. But then when we look at the new Z, the front end, it looks like a toy car, like a Matchbox car or something that is unfinished and more of a generic sports car. It doesn't actually look like much. The front end just has a very squared off design with the grille. It's missing something. There's something missing. The hood, I do like on the hood. You see that bump in the center? Looks kind of like a 2008 350Z, so I see some of that in there. The side profile I think is pretty cool. It has a nice shape to it and good proportions. It looks a little odd. I think there's something missing with the side as well. And then when we look at the back, I can see the 240, 280Z in the back end of it. I can see that retro design, but it also looks like a Ford Mustang from the back. Nothing against a Mustang, but a JDM Z car should not look like a Mustang from the rear. It just, I don't know, something doesn't fit right with me on the design. The rear end just kind of ends too abruptly with no sculpture, no style to it. So I don't know, the looks I'm not a fan of. They need to do something about it. They need a new front and rear bumper. They need to add a little bit of character. I do see a little bit of bulges for the rear wheels. It needs some flair to it, I think, to really capture the eyes of the audience. For me, that's the one thing, it just doesn't look that good. So that's the only thing I hate about it. I don't think it looks good. So now talking about the interior of this new Nissan Z car, I think the photos of it look amazing. It looks really cool. I see a good blend of the current 2020 GTR and the current 2020 370Z. So I see a lot of both of those cars in the design of this new Z. I really love the steering wheel. It has a really cool design. The air vents look good. All the climate control dials look sweet. And then you have that huge touchscreen display system right in the center. I think the dashboard looks really sporty. Of course, you have the 6-speed manual, which we'll talk about in a second, but then the seats have a cool style to them. I think very sporty on the inside. You do have a full digital display for the gauge cluster. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I kind of like the analog where you have more of a mechanical feeling to it, but I think in the modern era, everybody literally gives cars crap about not having full digital displays. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I like in my Supra how it's kind of a blend of both. We have a physical tack, but then digital stuff comes up in the middle of that, so I think that's kind of cool. But nonetheless, very nice and modern looking, very sporty. I love the interior. The seats, they look very similar to the previous 370Z seats, and I'm not a big fan of the standard seats on that car. The base of them is a little short. I'm just a little too tall, I guess, for that car. I never fit too comfortably in my 2012. And then my Nismo Z with the Recaros, I fit so well. So for me, and I'll actually throw up a few shots of someone did a render of a Nismo version of this new Z, I would probably actually hold out for a Nismo just because I want the bucket seats, the Recaro seats, which I'm sure they're going to put in the Nismo version. The standard seats that we're seeing in this original photo, they look just like the basic 370Z seats. So I don't think I'm going to like those seats too much, so I'll wait for Recaros. But nonetheless, interior, they nailed it. It looks super good. So next up, as far as powertrain goes, as far as we know, it's going to have a twin-turbo V6 engine paired to a manual transmission. That is pretty epic to hear. My Supra has an inline 6-cylinder single turbo, and they're only paired to the 8-speed automatic. So to me, I really like the potential and the platform that this car is already going to have. So I think it's going to be more of like a baby GTR's engine, which of course has a lot of power to it. The manual transmission, that is insane. I think Nissan really listened to Supra buyers and people who didn't buy the Supra, because this Supra is hands down the only competitor to the new Z. And this car, the manual transmission, while this automatic is a fantastic option, a manual would be really cool, and a lot of buyers really wanted a stick shift. So for me, that is a huge plus. I absolutely loved the manual in my Nismo Z. It was a fantastic transmission. So I have no doubt Nissan's going to put an insane manual transmission for this new car. So that's a really good power plant. Of course, it's rear-wheel drive. Again, we don't have all the specs or numbers or anything like that. I'm going to bet it's going to have 400 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. So I think it's going to have more horsepower than torque. A car like this actually has more torque than horsepower. So I think it's going to be more along the lines of a GTR, just downplayed, maybe 150 to 200 horsepower in torque. I would also assume it's going to have a different sport mode and things like that. I did see on the digital display it has a sport icon that came up, so I would assume the suspension will be adaptive, steering, the differential, things like that I'm sure are going to have. So with some of that out of the way now, we talked about the power plant, some of the good stuff, the interior and the exterior. To answer the question, am I going to sell or trade in my A90 Toyota Supra for this new Z? I think yes. I think it really has a lot to offer and things that I really want in a car. Now, I'm not going to do this immediately. I'm not going to try to be one of the first people to buy it, hurry up and just trade in or sell this just to get the new Z first. That's a waste of time and money for me. I know it's just not worth it. I tried doing that with the Supra and not worth it. I wish I had waited a year to buy this car because I would have saved like $7,000 and got the exact same product. So for me, I'm not trying to be first. I have zero interest in that. And even for me as a YouTuber, my videos are doing better on the Supra a year later than they did when I first bought it. The videos that I make really relate to people who actually own the car and are normal people. All the big guys who bought the Supra when it came out, they dumped $30,000 into their cars day one. Wide bodies, wraps, air ride suspension, $10,000 wheels, full turbo upgrades, full bolt-ons tuning, you know, doing that in a month. Nobody does that. None of you guys are actually buying a car to do that sort of thing, and I certainly don't do that. I do the normal mods that everybody can actually do. And as I've seen from all the comments, a lot of you guys are following my build, literally doing the same things that I've done to my car to your own cars. So I kind of relate to more of the normal person. So with that, my goal is going to be to wait for the new Z to be on the used market. I think a year after they actually hit the streets is going to be a great time to buy them. It's a year after I bought the Supra, and you can get them for a heck of a lot cheaper, leftover 2020s or really good used ones for like 50 grand. So I'm going to wait for a used one or a leftover one a year after they hit the road, and I think that's going to work out very well. It's already at least a year or two out, so this is not happening anytime soon, but I think probably 2 years from now, let's just say that, maybe the car's going to come out next year, so then the end of 2022 would be a great time. I want to have this car long enough to make the depreciation worth it, because as of right now, out the door I paid $58,000. I could probably sell this high end, maybe $52,000, $50,000. If I were to trade this into a dealer right now, I'd probably get like 47 grand, which is over a $10,000 loss. If I tried to retail it myself and do my absolute best, I'm still talking about a $6,000 loss. So I'm not trying to sell this thing anytime soon. I want it to continue working for me and get my money out of it. Now that it's tuned, I am having such a blast owning it. I have zero interest in actually selling it right now, so there's literally no car I would want to trade this in for. I have grown really fond of the Supra. I'm really enjoying it, especially now that it's tuned. So I'm going to enjoy this car for another year or two at least, and we'll see with the used market when the Zs are out there, and at least by that time this car will have been out there for many years now, and I think I'll be able to get a good price for it, and it will have served its purpose very well over many years. And then on top of that, so I think that kind of leads us into my future plans for my future garage. As of now, I have the R35 GTR and the A90 Supra. Those complement each other very well. I really like owning both cars together. This is the good, comfortable daily, and it's such a fun car to drive. And then my GTR is my baby. I love that car. That's been a dream car. Super fast, super mechanical. So I love the blend of these two cars. So for me, I will probably, the next step will be to trade the GTR for the Lamborghini, because the Gallardo has been my dream car since I was 10 years old. That's been the goal ever since I was 10. So that's the next car I'll probably be buying. But that's going to be in like 2 years from now, so I'm still going to enjoy the GTR. But then once that happens, that'll be about time the Zs are probably used or leftovers, and that'll be a great time to trade this in for the Z. And I think at that point, the new Z will be a really good blend of my current GTR and this Toyota Supra. It'll have that mechanical feeling like the GTR, being it'll be a stick shift and it'll have more of the power potential with a V6 twin turbo. But it's the same layout as the Supra, a nice two-seater hatchback rear-wheel drive. So I think it's just going to be a really good blend of those two cars. So those are my overall thoughts with Nissan's Proto Z, the new concept car for the new Z. I think it has some potential. They've got to make it look better though. The front and rear are pretty ugly in my opinion. I can see that retro design to it, but I think they've gone too far to make it so retro, it's just plain and lacking any style. I think they're doing a great job on the interior, and then the whole power plant I think is going to be really good. So I'm a fan of the new Z already. I think it has a lot of good potential, just got to make it look better. And in the future, I'd say 2 to 3 years from now, when there's good used ones or leftovers, I think I will be selling the Supra for that car. But that is it for today's video. I think that's everything I've had to go over. Comment down below your thoughts on this new car. Do you think it's ugly? Oh, I'm just not a fan of the way it looks. It's growing on me just slightly, but it still needs some work. I think this is a beautiful looking car, so they need to compete with the Supra a little bit better and add some style. But anyways, that's it. Comment below your thoughts. Give the video a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next video.